Hello there, welcome to another special edition of African Football Archives, and today we are looking at Cameroon's adventure at the 2000 Olympics. Over the history of the Olympic Games, a number of teams have reached such heights that they can only be described as incredible. In the latest episode of African Football Archives, we look back at Cameroon men's football team that triumphed at the Sydney Olympics in 2000. The hindsight is a wonderful thing. Looking back at the Cameroon team that made history at Sydney 2000, it's easy now to see that they had the makings of one of the greatest football teams ever to emerge from Africa. It's easy to point to the goalkeeping brilliance of Carlos Kameni or the accomplishments of Laurent, a key member of Arsenal's Invincibles, who went through the entire 2003-2004 Premier League season unbeaten. And it only takes a swift glance at the illustrious resume of three-time Champions League winner Samuel Eto'o, arguably the greatest African player of them all, to know that there was something undoubtedly special about this group of players. But in the year 2000, all of those achievements were yet to come. At the time, the greatest thing that this Cameroon team had was promise. Exactly 10 years earlier, Cameroon had announced themselves on the international stage as a team led by Roger Milla lit up the Italian 90 World Cup, beating world champions Argentina on their way to the quarterfinals. Then, 4 years prior to the Sydney Olympics, the Nigerian Super Eagles, led by the irrepressible JJ Okocha and Nwankwo Kanu, had become the first ever African nation to win the Olympic gold medal. But on 13 February, on the first Olympic year of the new century, Cameroon's Indomitable Lions had taken the title of Africa's best team by beating Nigeria on penalties in the final of the 2000 African Cup of Nations. On that occasion, Cameroon had blown a 2-goal lead in regulation time before Rigobert Song scored the all-important spot kick that would seal victory after the match ended 2-2. Little did they know how close history would come to repeating itself as their Olympic adventure came to its conclusion mere months later in Sydney. Perhaps the first great hurdle standing in Cameroon's way en route to the Olympic final was their last 8 matchup against Brazil. A crowd of 37,332 watched on in the repurposed Brisbane cricket ground as the Lions lined up against a Brazil squad that included future Chelsea star Alex, defender Lucio, who went on to star for Inter Milan and Juventus, and one of the greatest players to ever grace the football field, Ronaldinho. A game that began with Patrick Mboma firing home a 25 meters free kick to give Cameroon the lead in the 25th minute descended into chaos as the Lions, Jeremy and Aaron Nguibat, were shown red cards before the final whistle. And when Ronaldinho showed his own dead ball mastery with a stunning 94th minute free kick from the edge of the box to change the momentum of the game, it looked as if there would be only one winner. But as extra time began, Cameroon continued to attack, and in the 113th minute of the game, Modeste Mbami found the corner of the net from 18 yards to seal the golden goal victory. The Lions were on their way. Having negotiated a 1-2 comeback victory against Chile in the semi-finals, Cameroon faced their toughest test of the tournament in the Olympic final against Spain. At Sydney's Olympic Stadium, 104,000 spectators watched the men in green take on Xavi, Carlos Puyol and company as Spain's La Roja staked their own claim for the title of Olympic champions. And history was waiting patiently to rear its head. Just 7 months earlier, in Nigeria, Cameroon had squandered a 2-goal lead before winning a penalty shootout to secure the African Cup of Nations title. This time, it was Cameroon who found themselves 2 goals down, the first after 78 seconds. But as their nickname suggests, the Indomitable Lions would not be beaten. Led by the imperious Samuel Eto'o, Cameroon came out swinging in the second half as a 52nd minute Amaya own goal was followed 5 minutes later by a Samuel Eto'o strike that leveled the scores. As the final whistle blew and penalties loomed, 5 touches of the ball separated Cameroon from glory. Mboma, Eto'o, Jeremy, Laurent and Wome, those were the names of the Cameroon heroes whose penalty kicks brought home their first ever Olympic football gold medal. In the end, all it took was a strike from Spain's Amaya to bounce against the bar for Cameroon to triumph by the finest of margins. But what was a cruel end to Spain's Olympic journey remains, to this day, the greatest footballing triumph for the nation of Cameroon. Olympic football is essentially an under-23s tournament with only 3 overage players allowed per squad. As such, it often gives people their first glimpse of the stars that will go on to light up the world of football in years to come. Carlos Kameni was only 16 years old when he took part at the Sydney Olympics in 2000, but his heroics, particularly against Brazil, would prove integral for his country's Olympic victory. Patrick Mboma, who played for Barcelona B at the time, scored 4 goals on his way to the final, making him Cameroon's top scorer in the tournament. He would later go on to have a stellar international career with 33 goals from 57 appearances. But it was Samuel Eto'o who would make the greatest statement of intent, with his second half strike sealing the comeback against Spain. As he burst through the last line of Spain's defense before dinking the ball past the goalkeeper, it's easy in hindsight to see that you're witnessing the blueprint of a career that would make him one of Africa's most successful players. The 2000 Sydney Olympic gold medal winners was followed by an African Cup of Nations victory in 2002, but the country that triumphed in Australia failed to win another major international tournament for another 15 years when they once again won the continental crown with a 2-1 victory over Egypt. However, many of the players who stayed at the 2000 Sydney Olympics did go on to enjoy impressive careers at some of Europe's greatest clubs. Carlos Kameni played for Espanyol and Malaga before representing Turkey's Fenerbahce until recently. Left-back Pierre Worme won the 2006 Serie A with Inter Milan, having previously enjoyed spells in England, Spain and Germany. Goal-scoring hero Patrick Mboma played for Paris Saint-Germain, Parma before turning out for a number of clubs in Japan, including Gamba Osaka, Tokyo Verdy and Vissel Kobe. 3 Champions League titles, 2 African Cup of Nations titles, 3 La Liga titles, 4 African Player of the Year awards, and an Olympic gold medal. The star of the Sydney Olympics remains arguably the most influential African athlete to have ever laced up a pair of football boots. That's all for this episode of African Football Archives. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video. Till next time, it's bye-bye.